Very warm namaste to all of you from Women for World. Hello, everyone. My name is Komal Darira, and I am the founder of Women for World. And welcome to yet another episode of Women in Today, I have a special guest with me, and her name is Catherine. So we have Catherine with us, and I know Catherine because we were colleagues before, but now she's doing wonders with her creativity and with her brand No Fly Travel Club. So let me give you an introduction of Catherine. So she's the founder of No Fly Travel Club, a sustainable travel company bringing together the best of rail travel and amazing local experiences. Catherine has been working in the travel industry the majority of her career. She spent 5 years helping to build a student rail travel startup. Wow, Catherine. Before going on to create locally led travel experiences at Intrepid Travel. More recently, she has also been working with small tour companies to help them develop their online presence. Her work has given her the privilege of traveling all over the world, the best job, and often overland, meeting the people who make travel extraordinary. She is thrilled to use this experience to create memorable trips that don't cost the earth, the most important thing, and the reason why we have Catherine with us here. So, a very warm welcome, Catherine, and thank you so much for joining us.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me.
So, Catherine, first, the name No Fly Travel Club, and why is your brand called No Fly Travel Club?
Yeah, so you gave a really good introduction to my kind of career so far. And as you mentioned, I started out working for a rail travel company for about 5 years when I first started my career. And that's how I got interested in rail travel, as opposed to flying to reach other destinations. And then I was working for Intrepid for a while, which obviously focuses on the kind of community aspect of travel and that way of traveling sustainably by getting to know local people and investing locally. And then at the point where the pandemic happened, it seemed like a good time to bring those things together because we all had this awareness that the climate implications of flying a lot are not sustainable, as well as also having the feeling that we want to help our community in difficult times and bring people together and share across borders, understanding and cultural exchange. So that was why I decided to set up No Fly Travel Club. And as the name would suggest, we don't sell any flights. I appreciate most of the customers are based in the UK. So for your audience who are in India, obviously it's a slightly different situation because we're a much smaller country and we're closer to a lot of other places by rail. But because of that, we're able to sell trips which reach other countries without any flights, so that people can have a lower carbon footprint when they travel. And I just wanted to show what's possible by avoiding flights and showing that it's a way of traveling where you can see a lot more and you can also reduce your impact on the environment. So that's kind of what we're about. At the moment, we're also focusing a little bit on virtual tours, which I think we'll probably talk about more, because as we know, travel has been a little bit limited in some places, and virtual tours has been a way to extend the no-fly part of No Fly Travel Club to pandemic times when it's kind of like no travel club. And how can we bring travel into people's homes as well as just reducing the impact. We also wanted to make it accessible during a time when we can't travel as much.
Great. Thank you so much for this information, Catherine. And obviously, the moment you started No Fly Travel Club, I think it started last year, right? Yeah, I was in love with the concept. And, from that time, we have been supporting each other. And I'm so thankful for the support you have extended to Women for World all the time. And today we are collaborating together on this YouTube channel. So it means a lot to us. And yes, as you were talking about virtual tours, and today's concept and today's conversation is also around the new style of traveling and the regenerative travel. And most importantly, virtual travel. So we all have been talking about the impacts of ongoing pandemic on the hospitality and the travel industry. In these challenging times, a new travel and a new normal came into existence, which helped us to connect to our customers once again, and that is virtual tours, everyone. So, what do you think of them, Catherine? And do you consider that it is long lasting and people should consider it as a profession in the upcoming future?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's interesting because when I first heard about virtual travel, I think it was before the pandemic, and I really was like, "What? I don't understand this idea of virtual travel. How can you travel if you're not there? Surely travel is all about being there." But having having learned more about it and met more people who are doing virtual tours, and obviously being limited to virtual tours as the only way that we could really travel, I really started to see the benefit and understand why this is something that I think will stay around beyond the pandemic, because virtual travel allows people to connect directly with another person from another culture, um, in a way that is really accessible. Anybody can join a virtual tour. Doesn't matter if you're 100 or 5, you can join. You don't need to have a lot of money. You don't need to have a passport. You don't need to fly across the world. You don't need holiday time, to take off from work. So there are so many benefits to a lot of people, on the traveler side. And then on the guide side, of course, it also means that many people can earn an income from their home or from their hometown, even when tourists aren't able to come into the country. And that's something that is, I think, a really important problem that we need to solve, because I was reading the other day, in many places which have become dependent on tourism, the jobs have just disappeared overnight with the pandemic. And if there isn't any support for those people, then we have to find a way for them to be able to continue supporting themselves and their families, and to share their amazing skills with the rest of the world. So during the pandemic, obviously, I'm sure it will continue, but also beyond the pandemic, I think, with people being more conscious about wanting to fly less, maybe, or travel in a more responsible way, and with tools online becoming more available to more people, I think there's tons of potential for virtual tours to become another option alongside traditional travel. So for people to be able to experience another culture without all the barriers that traditional travel includes.
You have explained it so well, Caitlin. Thank you so much. And I think the people who still doubt about virtual tours, and especially in India, because it's a very new concept and people don't understand about it, maybe this is the best way to start off and think, change the way you think about certain things, because then you can mold the challenges into the opportunities. And thank you so much for sharing your insights on virtual tour, Catherine. And now coming on to the next question, that is, we always talk about regenerative travel, and you have been giving a lot of sessions about sustainability and travel done right. So what, according to you, should be the right style of travel or right way of travel after this pandemic gets over?
Yeah, so I guess I don't want to say that it's the right way, to travel, because I don't want to make people feel bad if it's not how they choose to travel. Everybody's in a different situation, and I really appreciate that some people, they want to see all of the sights in the world and they haven't had the opportunity yet. So I can't say to them like, no, you can't do that anymore. But what I will say is that for people who have the benefit to be able to choose how they travel, maybe they can afford to make different choices, or they have more time. I really think that we should be more aware of how our individual impact affects the world. So whether that's how you travel in terms of your flight usage. So for example, if you take like one flight per year, that's the amount of carbon emissions that releases is kind of equivalent to more than some people's entire usage for a year, So that's a really big impact for you personally to have. And so if we can kind of start to make that less normal, and just embrace slower ways of traveling, maybe traveling by train or cycling or public transport. I think that's a really important move, especially for those of us like in Europe, where we have a lot of access to great public transport, and in Asia as well. There's a really good infrastructure for us to use. So if we can use it, I think we should use it, and discover more of what's around us, in our country and our continent. And also in terms of how we treat people when we travel, and how we work with travel suppliers. So, for example, when we're working with guides, we want to make sure that we pay them fairly for what they do. When we go to a hotel, we want them to use healthy local produce that's supporting farmers nearby, and it's not wasting a lot of food and resources. And I think just to be aware of those things is the first step, and then to start looking for people who can help us to make more conscious purchases. So I'm hoping that by with more people creating businesses like you are, Kamal, and like I am, there is more choice for people to choose an option that is helping people and supporting the environment as well.
I agree to it, Catherine, and that's very important that right now we can see the impacts of global warming all around the world. And it's very important as an individual that we should take the right steps towards the correct way of traveling and make the right choice. Thank you so much for your insight on this, Catherine. And last question for today, that you also started the business in the middle of the pandemic. What, according to you, was the biggest learning and motivation that inspires you to keep going?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like every person who starts a business, there's better points and less good points of your business journey. I think the thing I would say is that when you're struggling with something, is always to ask for help, because there'll always be somebody who knows more than you do. So when you're struggling, you don't have to struggle on your own. You can ask your network, you can reach out to people and say, look, I don't know how to do this, please can you help? And usually people are happy to help, and it strengthens your network to have all those different insights and all that expertise. You don't have to do everything by yourself. And also I think having a community of other business people to talk to, so that you don't feel on your own, so that you don't feel like you're the only person who's struggling with certain problems. And maybe you can help each other by creating contacts or suggesting a solution that you haven't thought of. So I think always to collaborate rather than compete is my main learning.
Exactly, Catherine. And I think that is what I've learned when I started Women for World, because I started talking to all of you and I learned from each one of you so much. And, this is the way you can grow. You cannot grow alone. You have to create a network so that you can grow together. And thank you so much for this message. I think all the people who have started their businesses recently would listen to it and would learn from it. And I think when you have a network, it helps you, motivates you to keep going. So
Yeah,
thank you again, Catherine, for joining us today and for answering the questions and for all your insights, all the information, and for your time. Thank
thank
you.
you. Thanks so
Thank you.
much for having me.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. So this brings us to the end of our episode, everyone. And we would be posting it on our YouTube channel. We will also be posting the details of No Fly Travel Club. So you can follow them on Instagram and check out other details about them. Till then, please take care and stay safe and stay healthy. And we will see you on the another episode of Women in Travel very soon.